Mouse P.I. is a game that sat in the back of my head for nearly 3 years after first seeing a teaser on some random Instagram reel in 2023. At first, I thought it would be one of those games with an amazing concept that just doesn't ever see fruition, whether it be through developer burnout, industry constraints, or a lack of resources. It looked like the perfect boomer shooter for me, a genre that I didn't have much experience in besides beating the first Dooms and watching my brother play the 2016 remake. Despite the amazing aesthetic and fun looking, if basic at the time, gameplay, I decided to tame my expectations. So much so that when the announcement for the game finally came in April, it felt like seeing some distant, barely remembered rodent relative come back for family dinner. All the initial feelings of excitement and hope hit me in the stomach like a ball of frozen mozzarella. The game even looked better than before, with a more developed art style and fleshed out combat mechanics. It oozed that classic pulp atmosphere that many of my favorite pieces of media held. The love and passion that the developers put into the game were clear simply by looking at it, and to top it all off, the game was only $30, a price point that I believe it fully reimburses you on with fun gameplay, an enjoyable story, and a comforting kind of fun that's perfect to sink into after a long day. So without further intro, let's get into why I believe Mouse P.I. is such a relaxing and fun experience. The first aspect of Mouse P.I. for Hire that sticks with pretty much everyone when they first see it is the wonderfully well-developed art style. The game is a love letter to old cartoons, and looking at it feels like receiving a love letter from my eyeballs. All the NPCs and animated level details, like these chill-ass frogs, stretch and bounce around in lively animation loops that just make the world fun to look at. Some of my favorite moments in the game were finding random animated critters, like these villainous spiders scattered throughout levels. On top of that, I loved seeing all the different enemy variants as you went throughout different areas. It kept the enemies from getting stale, and was made all the better by the different death animations that certain variants have. My personal favorite designs were probably the robots and the underwater diver enemies. Now those two variants might sound weird coming from what I at least had assumed would be a more down-to-earth, despite the mice, detective shooter. But that brings me to my next piece of praise for the world design of the game. While Mouse P.I. does have many of your classic detective noir settings, it also throws a ton of cartoony curveballs your way. You'll go from mowing down cheeseleggers with your James gun in old subway stations and swamps, to exploding mouse heads with a brainwave shooting laser gun in a submarine, or cutting down a horde of demons in hell with a chainsaw made of bones. Which is just as fun as it sounds, and the chainsaw ended up being one of, if not my favorite weapon in the game. The wildly different areas throughout the campaign were a joy to comb through, and all of them had a specific atmosphere that kept me wanting to cruise on over to new locations. Speaking of which, the overworld map you use to go from mission to mission is awesome, and I love all the little details like this ghost in the cemetery. In short, the art direction and world design of this game are immaculate, and I think they knocked it out of the park. A less expected highlight of this game for me was the secret hunting and Easter eggs. Now, usually I suck at this aspect of boomer shooters. In the first two Doom games, I was lucky to end a level with more than two discovered, and I would always miss things that I assume were obvious for most people. In Mouse P.I., however, I found myself so in love with the world and its design that I actually gave it the attention needed to discover things. Using movement abilities like the double jump and tail glide were intuitively enjoyable, which made the exploration loop satisfying to play through. I always got a sweet hit of dopamine when I'd find a secret code, or reach a hidden schematic for upgrading weapons. The secrets are also well placed, with them not feeling too obtuse for my peanut-sized brain, but still rewarding thorough exploration. As a last little tidbit, the lockpicking mechanic is such a fun and fitting minigame. It is one of the first things that comes to mind when I think of this game for some reason. Now, as for the real sauce, or should I say cheese, of Mouse P.I., the combat. It ticks all the boxes of a standard boomer shooter while infusing all the charm that the rest of the game exudes. It's a fun mix of fast movement and space control that doesn't lose its kick even after 40 hours of playtime and nearly 100%ing the game. Jumping a gap and tail gliding to enemies as you rain bullets down upon them will never not be fun, and blowing some mobster's head off with a boomstick feels just as satisfying as it should. The guns are all quite fun to use, with secondary fire modes unlocked after upgrading them with the schematics found throughout levels. My personal favorites were the previously mentioned Hellraiser, a bone chainsaw that shoots a wave of sparks out, the Devarnisher, a gun that shoots the equivalent of acid and has an AoE ball of acid for its secondary attack, and the Cannonball Launcher, a rocket launcher that is 10 times as cool because it's a giant cannon that shoots cannonballs. A nice plus is that this, along with the Varnisher, are especially effective against bosses. Your weapons, while also being varied in utility, are quite different visually, with them all having cartoony and quirky animations, like the boomstick's secondary fire puffing up the barrel, or the portable freezer being reloaded with a baby bottle. Besides the weapons, the enemies you fight remain pretty similar throughout the whole game, minus their appearance. And while this could be a detriment, I personally found it to not detract from the fun at all, as the balance found between these basic enemies always ends up being enjoyable. You have rats with bats, rats with gats, rats who are fat, and even these annoying little flying rat bastards who pepper you from above. There are other enemies like dogs and alligators sprinkled in, but for the majority of the game these will be your combatants. Some even come with tricks, like how you can shoot the feet of the shield rats even while they're blocking. In addition to the regular horde of enemies, Mouse P.I. is also chock full of bosses, with all of them being pretty fun in my opinion. The Prima Donna is a nice starter boss, who rains down pianos on you, and is a pretty simple fight, like a majority of the bosses. Almost all of them have a gimmick attached, and they get a bit more complex as you go on, but they're never very difficult. The highlight bosses of the game for me were definitely the Robo-Betties, MacGuffin McLeod, Reginald Singer, and the Mad Cultist. The Robo-Betties are a fun three-phase boss fight where you go through each of her prototypes before beating her final form. Her and the Mad Cultist have attacks that you can use to your advantage, with them throwing out bombs that if you shoot quick enough will deal damage, and in the Mad Cultist case, save you from having a hole in the floor that you could drop through, which I did. MacGuffin is another boss fight that plays with the arena, only giving you little platforms to jump between as you try to take his moving ship down amidst an air full of flying shrews. This one keeps you on your toes, which a lot of the boss fights do, keeping a constant flow of movement and shooting. Reginald Singer is probably the most expansive boss fight, with you fighting him in a Technicolor arena where you must face off in a gun battle before evading tons of bombs and enemies, finally culminating in a badass fistfight full of Popeye wind-up punches. All in all, I really enjoyed Mouse P.I. While I didn't really touch on the story much in this video, as I think it's better to experience it somewhat blind, rest assured that it's just as good, if not better, than the rest of the game. I haven't played a game that was this relaxing and just straight up fun in a while. I can't remember really ever getting annoyed with it, and I found it to be the perfect game to throw on for an hour or two after a few green herbs. If you think it looks like you'd enjoy it, then I can almost guarantee that you will. It's a beautiful looking, well playing, and most of all, relaxing experience that I can only say I wish there was more of. Which, luckily, there soon will be, as a DLC has been announced for later this year. I can't wait to see what that has in store, and I would love if some new Game Plus features were added, although I know that's not really necessary for this type of game. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you enjoy Mouse P.I. if you decide to play it. And I hope you enjoyed this video, as it was my first one ever, and I'm sure it wasn't the best, so thank you for watching. If you'd like to see me cover anything else, or if you just want to tell me I'm a goober or something, feel free to comment and maybe like and subscribe if you want to see more content from me.